The Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. With your hosts, Joe Bond.
You're awful.
And A.J. Applegarth.
This is Sin Shoe Shoe. It's a mouthful.
All right, welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me, as always, my co-host, A.J. Applegarth. How's it going tonight, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. Ready for a great show, so let's do it.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. We're gonna cut the news and notes out. There's obviously a lot going on out there, but we have a great guest tonight. We want to get to it, short for time, so we're gonna cut it short. But just before we move on, remember to subscribe for us on YouTube, Periscope, iTunes, wherever you listen to us. We appreciate the support. So just make sure you go ahead and click that button there. Let's do our beer of the week first, and then we'll bring on our guests and just rock and roll. All right, so I am drinking a Kushwa Outsider's Perspective. It is a New England double IPA. I picked it up last weekend, I think, and I gave it a 4 on Untappd. It's pretty tasty, man. I'm not going to get into the details, but it's definitely good. So
Awesome. I finally was able to find a Kona Brewing Company Gold Cliff IPA, which is the little surfboard that can't really see there behind me, but it's right there. So, yeah. They didn't have it in Hawaii for some reason when I was in Hawaii, and now I have it, so I'm ready to enjoy it.
All right, sounds good, man. All right, well, without further ado, let's bring on our guest, Mr. Fantasy Guru himself, John Hansen, owner of FantasyPoints.com. He hosts, the morning show on SiriusXM, DirecTV, Fantasy Zone channel, Hall of Famer, FSWA. List of accolades goes on, man. Great to have you on. How's it going tonight?
Good. What's up, Joe? Anthony, I feel like completely unprepared. This is the first time it's ever happened to me that I didn't bring beer. So
it's all good.
I'm sorry I couldn't participate. I'm a Stella guy, which to you is probably the most boring beer choice in the world. But it's like water.
Good Stella. I get enjoy a good Stella. In fact, we had Richard on last week was drinking a Stella, right, for the show, for the mock draft. So yeah. You're in good company.
I'm a lager guy, Heineken, Stella. I'll even do Amstel Light if need be. But I could never get into the IPA, man. I don't know what it is, man. It's just not feeling it with my taste buds with the IPAs.
I was into all that stuff before I tried the IPAs, and the IPAs took over for whatever reason. So, I know not everybody likes the IPAs, but it worked for us at least.
Yeah, no, I know a lot of people who like it. It's just not my bag.
Yeah. So, again, great to have you on tonight. I do want to let you kind of promote your new site. You got the sign behind you, Fantasy Points. Kind of tell everybody, including us, what it's all about and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, as you guys I was like, wow, this is ridiculous. I'm actually preparing for the show. I'm not used to that. But, I also had a really great group of contributors that, I kind of helped cultivate most of them. And they still had a lot of, interest in working with me, strong interest in working with me. And the fact is, I've been doing this for so long. I've learned so many damn lessons. I thought, let's take another crack at perfection, because it would be kind of a waste with everything that I've worked toward the last 2.5 decades to just kind of say goodbye and that's it. And I'm certainly not ready to retire. I'm still very passionate about it. So we all came together and launched a new company and a new website. It was not easy finding a brand, by the way. But I thought Fantasy Points was very interesting. It wasn't available readily, but it wasn't that expensive. But it's just kind of a term everyone knows. It's pretty memorable. It's got double meanings in terms of you can make points about fantasy, but at the end of the day, what are we looking for? Fantasy points. Yeah. So we think the new place to get it is fantasypoints.com. And the great thing about it, unlike the other site, really, that was a lot of me, especially in the early days, I'm just a part of it. So if you want my stuff, if you like my stuff, great. It's there. All the signature articles that I normally would do, all there. But Graham Barfield, Scott Barrett, Graham Formula of NFL.com. Of course, he worked with us over at Guru. Scott Barrett at Pro Football Focus. They've got a lot of the numbers things, on lockdown. Joe Dolan, who I hired right out of college when he was 22 years old, like 11 years ago. He's kind of a hybrid of the two. Tom Brawley's our resident grinder, plus Greg Cosell and Adam Kaplan. So, we've got a legitimate NFL insider. I don't know if there's any other website, fantasy site, that has a person working for it that's literally calling coaches and getting the skinny, which, by the way, is more important than ever this year. So it's something for everyone, and it's gone real well. It's very flattering to see people like you guys, kind of help support us and kind of get excited about it. It's a very competitive industry, I understand, but there's room for a lot of people to be successful in this industry. So yeah, off to a great start.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I remember. I don't go into work anymore, but I stay at home with the kids. But every morning driving into work, I listen to you on the radio. And I remember when you made the announcement that you sold the site and you weren't going to do it anymore. I was like, whoa. And I was kind of afraid you were going to come off the radio. Then you said you were going to still do it. I was like, oh, great. And I just loved listening to all the info you gave and just your insights. It's fantastic stuff. So not that I'm trying to suck up completely, but it was always a fun. It's always a fun listen. So
yeah, one thing I've learned doing radio and TV over the years, like you just have a dual meaning. I'm going to try and pay it forward and promote guys like you and try and help you out.
Appreciate it. So you pretty much answered all the other questions that we had about the site. So we'll just jump into some of this. We brought you on also to talk about some general rankings and ADP talk and things like that as the season's approaching. This gets more and more important. Guilty of it, but that's just what happens. So, just got a couple general questions. AJ, you fire away, man.
Yeah, man. So, without giving away all of your secrets, what mainly goes into your rankings? And by that I mean, are they based solely on your projections? Is ADP built in, or are they just straight gut calls?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Actually, it's something so basic that I don't think people really think about it, because terms of you could do rankings, but then people are going to ask for projections. But then if they don't line up, they're like, what's up? So
Right.
I've always kind of defaulted to, I do projections, and those projections determine the rankings. So that's pretty much my process. I don't automate it in any way. And that's probably my bad, because I know a lot of people do it. I still don't trust it, because you guys know this in sports data and statistics, one or two outlier performances, huge game, bad game, could really skew the numbers. I don't trust it. So I go in and physically touch every projection and every player. And, we don't want to spend an hour on all the things I keep in my mind when I'm doing the projection, but, I've been doing it for so long that, it's very important. I think as Malcolm Gladwell said, you need to do something for 10,000 hours to be an expert in it. And I mean, I've probably done, 900,000 hours. I don't even know how many years that is or how much time that is, but whatever. I've got a very large base of knowledge. So I feel like I'm able, when I do projections, I certainly look at very key statistics, and most of them are pretty obvious, but I also have like this knowledge base that the human element is involved. Maybe I know that they're changing blocking schemes, or I know the Vikings don't want to throw it as much, so I'll pull back from, Steph Diggs' projections last year, things like that. So yeah, that's my process. Make the projections to do the rankings. Sometimes they don't line up right, and I tweak it just a little bit, but that's my process.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I do, very similar stuff there too. And the reason why I brought that up big time is your Scott Barrett actually put something on Twitter just a few days ago about, people ranking James White, higher than like Rojo and win you the league. And so like,
Yeah,
that's
sure.
where you can't draft just purely off of projections or rankings
Right.
anyway. So
Right.
that's where I
At
went
fantasy,
with it.
yeah, exactly. And at fantasypoints.com, I do a draft plan article, and I'm doing Friday a big, huge article called Good Vibes, Bad Vibes, where I talk about all 32 teams, the vibes I'm picking up, and things like that. You need to like read that. I mean, you could get up to speed in 20 minutes if you haven't covered anything. You haven't followed anything. You could read that in 20 minutes, read the draft plan in another 20 minutes, 40 minutes, you'll probably be up to speed. And then you'll have a little bit of a background on these projections. I will say in the rankings, so, you just don't blindly go off the rankings. I will say too, though, when I do the top 200 rankings, now you can't automate that. You just can't. I mean, obviously, if you go by points, it's going to be all the quarterbacks. So I do consider ADP. So it's a combination when I rank them. Obviously, you keep the positional players in their proper order, but in terms of how you rank everyone overall, I work into where are they going or when are they going off the board, and I combine that with when I think they should go off the board. So there's a little bit of a marriage there. So, for example, I have Josh Allen at 7 at quarterback, just behind Deshaun Watson, but Allen is like 30, 25 spots lower, just because it would be foolish to take Josh Allen, at 60 overall when his ADP 78.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And that actually goes right into our next segment here. We want to talk about guys that are like rising and falling, within ADP and rankings or projections or whatever you want to use here. Now, non-injury related, because that's kind of the obvious, right? Give us 4 guys, 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 receiver, and 1 tight end who are rising up for you as the season approaches.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, it's the least revealing preseason, by the way, in the history of fantasy
True.
football. And that is a little bit of a problem. So yeah, I'm just not seeing anyone who's like soaring up my board here. I mean, I have warmed up to Jared Goff.
Yeah. Are you worried at all about the fact that Allen, and this was one of the questions I had later, so I'll just ask it now. Are you worried about it all that, like, I forget where I read it. It was on Twitter somewhere. Somebody posted that he's talking about not running as much.
Yeah, we've had this discussion on the radio show, and there's an old adage among coaches: quarterbacks who run always run. They basically tend to run. Now they do want to check it down more, which right there is probably a big part of it. Increases completion percentage, move the sticks, stay ahead of the down, and all that. But at the end of the day, does have 17 rushing touchdowns the last 2 seasons. So when the Bullets are flying for real and it's crunch time and it's 3rd and goal at the 7, and no one's open, you know what's going to happen. But I think some of that too will be offset by the fact that we are told that his downfield accuracy has markedly improved this summer, and his mechanics lower body wise have improved as well. So I think plus the addition of Diggs. Yeah, I think they're going to be in a pretty explosive. They're going to be somewhat conservative, so that's a little bit of a concern. But I think the plays that they do make will be big plays. So you add it all up, I'm still feeling it. I think he's a pretty exciting fantasy pick.
Yeah, I like him. So a running back that you're falling in favor of more than you were before.
Yeah. Let me pull that up, and I apologize for not being completely prepared, but I'm more of a fly by the seat of my pants kind of a guy. That's when I'm at my best.
That's fine.
To my world.
Yeah. Well,
I wrote the book on it.
Yeah, not a ton. I've been in on Cam Akers all. With him. So he's moved up just a little bit. Let's see. Is there anybody else? Well, certainly on the low end, Damian Harris is probably the best answer right there. And I've always kind of liked him. And Sony Michel did return to practice this week, as you guys know. I actually just talked to a beat reporter a couple of hours ago. Been at practice every day, and he confirms that Harris has been kind of one of the stars of camp, and that Sony Michel does look okay, but he's not ruling out the possibility that Harris at some point relatively soon takes over. So it would have to be Damian Harris. And I'm not a Ronald Jones guy. So, I mean, I've moved him up just a little bit, obviously. I'm not stupid because he's going to be, the guy, but I'm still not all in on Ronald Jones. Also, Zach Moss. He's been climbing just because we're hearing really good things.
Good stuff. And that's good to see because he's a rookie, obviously, and they had even more of a disadvantage coming into camps than everybody else. So I'm glad to see Moss rising up a little bit. He's a guy I got my sights on in a few leagues and dynasties. So
don't sleep on his role in the passing game. They've been really happy with his receiving chops.
Good, nice. All right, so what do you got for receiver then?
Yeah, receiver has been pretty static pretty much all year. The guys that I like are a lot of the second tier guys, honestly, because I'm kind of like all in on taking running backs. But, certainly Hollywood Brown, we've been all in on him. He's done nothing but kind of move up the board. No doubt about that. I've moved up and warmed up to Will Fuller a little bit. I've never been a Fuller guy, but I feel like, well, if you're ever going to be in on Fuller, it's probably this year. Darius Slayton is a guy that I've moved up. Continue to talk to people there who say, look, that's Daniel Jones's favorite receiver, which makes some sense. Also, Henry Ruggs. I've been told by Adam Kaplan is tight with someone there in the Raider organization, and as soon as I heard this, I'm like, all right, I'm in. Very quick learner. If you guys recall, like 2 weeks ago, there was an erroneous report about him, going to play the slot. That's bad reporting, by the way. That's not what the coach said. The coach said that he's been such a quick learner that he already picked up he picked up Z, and now they were just expanding it, and he was working on the slot. He's not taking Hunter Renfro's job.
Good news for Renfro.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, do we call Antonio Gibson a receiver? What is he? I mean,
yeah, I'm going with running back at this point.
know?
I guess I think most sites have him at running back. So
Yeah.
I'm just going running back. I do want to backtrack though just a little bit about the Marquise Brown, and you mentioned Will Fuller. Another one of the questions we had was like these inconsistent guys. Like, how do you deal with these guys? Like projection wise, they're gonna blow up, right? They're gonna have these blow up games, but like, can you really trust them when you draft them? Like, because it's like, when do you start them?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we're taking Hollywood, ideally as a 3, that's probably a pipe dream at this point. But I think you can make up for maybe a lack of catches by, drafting different types of players after him, more volume type guys. You can offset it. I just love the pedigree and certainly the talent and the health this year. He's bulked up, hasn't lost much speed. They want to expand out the passing game. I'm always big on, pedigree. The Patriots, if you look at the Patriots, like they're always trying to maybe even Julian Edelman, try and offset that, low catch total situation. Jarvis Landry, like the slot guys, for example, Tyler Boyd, things like that. So I think there are ways to kind of offset it. But at the end of the day, man, I'm passionate about like young, ascending, exciting, get the juices flowing type of guys. That's not Julian Edelman this year, unfortunately, but that is Hollywood Brown.
Yeah. I feel you.
So speaking of the rookies, we'll just throw this in there because you did mention Ruggs too. We have been noticing a lot of the rookies moving up the boards, and basically for all of these things you were just saying. So what are your thoughts about some of these guys other than Ruggs? You got Lamb, you got Judy, you got Rager, Jefferson, Chenault. I mean, the list goes on from this year because there were so many of them. But what are you looking at for them?
Yeah, I think every situation's different. Every player in every situation needs to be approached individually so you can really kind of wrap your head around it. So what I've been, trying to do this year is everyone knows that the passing game guys are in a bad spot. We all know that with the timing and the chemistry, the lack thereof in the offseason. But, the narrative's been pushed so hard that the ADP's been kind of suppressed a little bit. So I'm like, okay, well, who are the guys who can rise above that for a variety of reasons? I've narrowed it down, for about 2 months to 3 players. Jalen Reagor, just because obviously there's a big need for him. They need explosiveness. He's not just explosive vertically. He's explosive horizontally. They'll find ways to manufacture touches. He's done really well. Former player's son. The other one was Ruggs. Again, very quick learner. The ghost of Al Davis made the pick. I know they have a lot of weapons here, but I just feel like they're gonna look to get the ball to Ruggs as much as they can because John Gruden wants Tyreek Hill, like he wants the next Tyreek Hill. Yep. And then the other guy would be Michael Pittman. I know he's been really quiet. I don't know what's going on there. It's a little weird, but I know they love him and they were loving him early on in camp. It's been a little weird. Maybe they're throwing more to the backs and the tight ends, players, former player's son. A lot of these kids I'm able to meet and interview at the combine and get a feel for him there. Pittman's a great, great kid. I do love Jerry Jeudy though. He's been looking pretty good. The guys that I'm not really, CeeDee Lamb is blowing up. He's not a tough call, but he's a guy who I think could kind of go either way. Like he's not going to be bad, but he could be really good, or he could kind of play, third fiddle to Gallup and of course Amari and all that. They run the ball quite a bit. Might be a little touchdown dependent. He's probably going to be fine though at the end of the day because he'll be in the slot more often than not. Get better matchups. Jefferson, I'm not feeling. pretty good opportunity there, obviously, but he's actually been behind BC Johnson thus far.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, Higgins, forget it. Because Jefferson, too, like, if I knew he was going to be in the slot all the time, which he will be in the slot for sure, that's ideal. But, he's probably going to have to be outside a little bit, too. And I don't know if he can, win against press man coverage. T. Higgins, I'm out on. Always been all year. Denzel Mims, forget it. Because of all the time missed. Ayuk, I'm a little skeptical of, but I know Shanahan loves him, and I know he's bursting with talent. He's a little bit banged up now with the hamstring. They'll manufacture touches. He's just very affordable. Bryan Edwards, there's a lot of hype on him, and look, I'm in too. He's a great guy, by the way. They love him, and he's not an explosive athlete, but everyone, who studies his tape thinks he's a really good football player. Right. Shenault, I'm not in on, but he's been moving up here. I actually talked to a guy today who said he's like looking pretty good and playing in the slot a little bit, by the way, because Didi's been hurt. But the rest of these guys are long-term guys, although it looks like Chase Claypool is kicking butt there in Pittsburgh.
Making some noise. Yeah. So, all right, well, real quick, let's close out the rising stars here and give us your one or two tight ends that you like that are climbing up the board.
Well, I mean, Chris Herndon is climbing up everyone's board. I mean, babies being born this week know that Chris Herndon is looking good. I've kind of been in on him for quite some time. There. I've been in on Hayden Hurst pretty much all year.
As everybody has.
Yeah, I think so.
His ceiling has rose a lot, and we can cut out one of the other questions later. I was going to ask you about Hayden Hurst. Like, has he gotten to the point where like his draft stock isn't worth it anymore? I got him at like 11, 12, 13, 14 tight end in the very beginning back in like July. Yeah. He's now like tight end 8. I mean, is it like maybe
I know.
not?
I took him at 140 overall, like in March. So at some point, Hayden Hurst jumped the shark, I think, in like June or something like that. But I still believe in him. Obviously, all those targets vacated there with Austin Hooper gone. I know they do have Gage and I do like Ridley this year and all that. I personally don't think they'll run the ball very well. I personally think that their defense will be poor. And perhaps more importantly, I know it's been slow going here, but he is, well, first of all, he's a great guy. I was able to sit down with him at the combine. Really good dude. And he's doing a lot of work for mental health and all that. He's putting himself out there, which I'm really rooting for him for that alone. But I'm telling you, great guy. Someone you would just love to hang out with, basically. But he's more athletic than Austin Hooper. So I think he's going to be more damaging and dangerous after the catch, and he'll make a little bit, more big plays. So I do believe in the talent. So I'm still in on him. And then actually, believe it or not, and our guy Adam Kaplan told us this like 6 weeks ago, and honestly, we didn't believe him. Jimmy Graham, the Bears or the Packers thought he was done. That was it. They were done. And Kaplan said, look, I talked with the Bears and they feel like the Packers got it wrong and he can still play. And he's been really good this summer. I mean, I'm not going to draft him, but he went from being dead at like tight end 45 to up to 25. So that's actually probably the biggest riser.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump in here to some quick fallers here. And we got a bunch we got a few more things to get to after this, and I know you got to go, so let's try to rifle through these a little faster here. Yeah. Quarterback. Let's just start with some guys that are dropping for you at quarterback.
Again, it's just weird. I can't really pinpoint guys who have moved. I don't know if
quarterback
that's
was tough.
I don't know if that's a function of getting it right the first time when I did the projections and all that, but I can tell you, let's just do this. The ones I'm skeptical of, I'm actually not feeling Kyler Murray as a really high pick, and I loved him last year.
Yeah.
I think Dak should be clearly the third quarterback off the board. I'm not that into Deshaun Watson. He's somewhat pricey. I'm really not into Brady. I think Brady and the Bucs are going to be fine, but I think it's going to be a little slow off the mark. And I actually talked with Brady's former offensive coordinator, Charlie Weiss, about this week, and he thinks September might be a little slow for Tom. So beware. I mean,
I can see that.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Brady fan this year either, even though he's got a great offense around him.
Yeah. I'm not feeling Stafford this year.
No.
He's volatile.
Yeah.
Everyone loved him 2 years ago, and I was like, I'm not seeing it. And he was terrible. Now, last year he was great just because he was great for half a season. I don't know if, that's a lock. I mean, they are pretty solid at receiver. And I'm a little skeptical on Drew Lock for what it's worth, which is kind of, and Teddy. I know people are taking Teddy.
Yeah.
They're interested in Teddy. I'm like, I don't know. Good luck. Availability issues. The O-line stinks. Yeah, their defense is going to be bad, but that could expose him to some problems. And, obviously he's new to the team, new number one receiver on the outside, new coach. Brady, first-time play call in the NFL. There's a lot that can go wrong there with Teddy.
Yeah. So just dipping off into one of the questions here, we had a few of those guys listed in here. It kind of seems like Dak, Kyler, Russell, and Watson are basically being interchangeable in the drafts for QB3 to 6. It sounds like obviously you're a little more down on Kyler and Watson, so I'm going to guess you would put Dak and Russell ahead of the two of them. But what's your general order for these guys?
He's hard to be down on, but last year was a little eye-opening to me. But, everyone likes to say, I hold off on quarterbacks and, they're a dime a dozen, which is kind of true. But, if they say, I know what Tom Brady's going to do this year, or I know what Big Ben's going to do this year, they're kind of lying to you. Let's be honest here. There's a lot of guys there that we don't really know. I do know this about Dak. Dak will be good. That we do know, and that's why I'm willing to take a look at him if I'm like stuck in round number 6. In 4 seasons, he's finished 6th, 10th, and 2nd. He runs, and of course, Lamb. So, that's the earliest quarterback I would take, Dak Prescott, ideally in round 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what about running backs then that you got falling down your rankings a little bit? Just like your top fallers, I guess.
Yeah. Le'Veon Bell has dropped a little bit. Obviously, David Montgomery. Kenyon Drake. I don't think it's a big deal. I think a lot of coaches this time of the year just shut him down. Like, we know we have in him, just shut him down. Yeah. I've been down on Gurley the whole year. I've been down on Fournette the whole year. So, and David Johnson as well. Actually, one riser is DeAndre Swift, because I don't think Kerryon Johnson is ever going to do it again. Like, I think he's got a chronic knee problem.
No,
I think we put Swift there on the fast track. I've not been high on Mostert all year. Peterson, he dropped, he rose. But in terms of drops, obviously Michelle. Yeah, that's about it. Nothing earth shattering. Keyshawn Vaughn,
Yeah.
But hey, it's a long season. I do still believe that Keyshawn Vaughn is going to be impactful, if not for 6-8 games this year. Again, I'm not a Ronald Jones truther.
Me either. You'd have beef with one of our writers, John Lepresto, Team Rojo.
loves him some Rojo.
My problem with him is I don't like a dude who looks. I don't like a dude who looks good on like every third carry. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of want my guy to look good like all the time, because you watch Ronald Jones, you're like, oh, wow, look at that run. And then you're like, that's kind of Ronald Jones.
I'd like to know what his rushing average is for that every third run.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
12 and a half.
Not very good hands either, by the way. Should be a great receiver. And somebody told me today he's improving, but every time I look at Twitter, literally every time I look at Twitter during the day, Ronald Jones just dropped another pass.
Yeah, about that.
So I brought in Shady.
All right, any receivers falling down your board?
A lot of it is would certainly be injury related. I don't know. Maybe my rankings are just good, and I just don't need to adjust. Obviously, Debo. Debo. Obviously.
Right. Yeah, he fell a while ago.
Yeah, not that much in terms of standing out. I mean, obviously, by the way, one of the bigger risers has been Steve Sims.
Yeah.
I mean,
obviously,
his name sounds like he's a jeweler, but I think he could be one of the best bargains in drafts this year. Get him at like 170 overall. Could catch like 65 balls.
Yeah. So tight ends, probably nobody's moving. I'm guessing on that. I'll just ask you a quick, Gronk. Like, is he falling for you, or is he like, where is he for you? Like, he's the big question mark at tight end for a lot of people. It feels like.
Yeah, I'm not feeling it. It's a tough call, obviously, but I look. OJ Howard's been good this summer. I mean, I don't know if that's out there, but it's out there. I mean, he's been good. So that's one thing. I think his snaps will be somewhat limited. We live in a PPR world here. So unless you're projecting Gronk to score 10 touchdowns, I don't know how he, finishes, much higher than where I have him at like 11. So I only have him catching 48 balls for 595 and 7.5 touchdowns. So I'm giving him some touchdown love. But I don't find myself taking him. I'd much rather get, I don't know, I guess I'm more intrigued by the unknown, like a Noah Fan or a TJ Hawkinson, Tyler Higbee, a younger player like that.
Yeah, no, and you're going to wrap up our tight end questions here that we had at the end. So that's good because we are cutting short on time, and I know you got that draft in a few minutes. So you mentioned, you're talking about those unknown tight ends, those outside the top 100 ADP tight ends, right? Obviously Kelsey, Kittle, Andrews, Ertz, Waller, Higbee, and Ingram, Hurst, Henry. Those are the top 100 guys. After that, you look at the Gesicki's and Jonas Smiths and guys like that, Fant and Hawkinson. Well, maybe not Hawkinson anymore, but Hawkinson, right? He's in there too. Who's your favorite out of that group?
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's hard to not say Hawkinson because I absolutely love Hawkinson, but I'm not sure he's going to be peppered with targets. I mean, I don't know if any of these guys are going to be. Probably Herndon, honestly, at this point. But I will say I'm not a Gesicki guy. He's a tough call. There's no doubt about it. There's just something missing there. Our guys, Dolan and Brawley, are both Penn State alums. They were sports editors of the college paper, so they're pretty dialed in. And he did this at Penn State too, where he was looked like he might be a bust, and then showed some signs of life. And then he kind of broke out. It took him like a long time. By the way, he's in his third offense in 3 years.
Yeah.
There's just something missing from him. He can make some spectacular catches, but he's a guy you kind of need to get the ball to on the move, things like that. He did kind of flourish with volume last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm out on him. I'm also out on Austin Hooper, although he actually has moved up because I had him buried with David Njoku looking terrible again. I do like Jonnu, and I love Irv Smith.
Yeah.
The guy I guess who's tumbled a little bit is a guy that's been my guy for years. And look, it's very early, but the vibes on Jay Sternberger really have not been great this summer.
Yeah. No, I hear that. So That wraps up the risers and fallers, and we kind of mixed in some of the other questions, so that's good. So just get to as many of these as we can, and we'll cut it as soon as you got to go, and that's okay. Going into quarterbacks here, you were talking a little bit about like you're not a wait on quarterback guy, but there are a lot of people that are. I'm kind of one of them. I feel like you can get a guy. I kind of still do believe in Stafford. I don't think 2 years ago was the real Stafford. I think What are you feeling for that kind of 13 to 20 range of quarterbacks here?
By the way, full disclosure, like ideally, I've always said your best chance to form the best starting lineup is to wait on quarterback and actually tight end. Okay. I do kind of wait. I just don't, but I think it is, I don't wait as long as others. And some people who think like it's all a dime a dozen and all that. I do try to get the breakout guy, and sometimes you got to take that guy in the 8th round, which I'm fine with. So, and I'm not even targeting Dak per se. I just brought it up to illustrate. I'm willing to take one in the 6th round. Well, it's got to be Dak Prescott, with an embarrassment of riches. But ideally, I'm getting like a Josh Allen or Carson Wentz in like the 8th or 9th round. That's ideal. Or a Matt Ryan. My fallback plan there is Daniel Jones. A few rounds later. And then my fallback plan is the aforementioned Baker and a little Joe Burrow. And I also do like Jared Goff. And I'm all in on the Ram offense to bounce back.
All right. Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right. So then moving into running backs here, looking at the late first round to, the end of the second round running backs, you're looking at or beginning of second round, sorry. You're looking at Drake, Jacobs, Eckler, Chubb, Jones. They're kind of going in different orders in every draft that I've done at least. So you don't necessarily have to rank them, but is there one of those guys that you would either, favorite versus a fade, or which one out of that kind of group stands out more to you? I'm going to guess it's not Drake, since he's obviously a faller on your list, but
may have been a couple of days ago, although he's freaking volatile as hell. I mean, we all know that a couple of different coaching staffs had problems with him. I don't think he's a bad kid, but there's something going on. But we know what happened last year. I'd probably go Aaron Jones at this point. I keep hearing just little rumblings that maybe the shoulder is still a little bit of a problem. So that does concern me. I'm not feeling it with Eckler this year without Phillip Rivers. I mean, no disrespect, but I don't find myself taking him. Hopefully I have my running back before we have to get into that, at least my RB1, like a Miles Sanders. Of course, I've been in on Edwards-Helaire all along. Joe Mixon, I've always loved, but it's kind of burned me a little bit. So I'm hoping I don't have to make a decision on frickin' Joe Mixon. But he is really good.
No, I feel that. Totally feel that. Mixon burned me big time here. So we've got a wide receiver question here. And, look, I've been super bullish on Allen Robinson all year. And his ADP and his rankings have just risen. Like, I had him way higher than most people early on, and then everything's caught up. So now I'm wondering, like, when that happens, I almost feel like, well, was I right, or now am I wrong? Like, well, I don't know what to think about him now. Like, do you take him where he's going, which is like wide receiver 5, 6, 7 range?
Yeah, well, we have him at 6.
Yeah, that's where I've got him.
Yeah, we've had him at 6 all along too. So I mean, he's good. He's probably the most underrated wideout in the league. What, 2 catches shy of 100 with Trubisky?
Yeah, pretty fantastic.
I mean,
like 154
That's amazing.
targets last year.
That is amazing. I think I thought all offseason it was going to be Trubisky. I think they want it to be Trubisky. I think it still could be Trubisky, but it's not Trubisky for the long haul. I mean,
Foles is inches ahead, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's in there.
It's not good. It's not good. But no, I'm with you on Allen Robinson.
He's been fantastic. Sorry, AJ's laughing here because I had to do it. Sorry.
What, you got some Bears fan here, or
No,
No, I'm an Eagles fan. That's my Brian Dawkins behind me. Well, he's not in the picture. He's over there, but
right. Are you from the Are you from the Philly area?
I grew up there. Yes, outside of about 40 minutes southwest of the city. Bigger town now called Exton, but Westchester is the bigger town.
Oh yeah, I live 10 miles across the Ben Franklin Bridge. So
all right, nice.
Exton that's not where Matt Ryan's from, is it?
It is. Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I have friends that went to the grade school with Maddie, and I actually met him at a golf tournament that we did for my old neighborhood. Runs a big tournament every year, and he would just happen to be there with his dad playing golf, whatever.
Nice.
So
Is that before or after
super
the
nice guy.
terrible Virginia Tech game?
I think this was when he was still in college. So I was like, I don't know what to say
hate you.
here.
Well,
Yeah,
I live.
it was.
I live in the same town as Joe Flacco, so I always thought that was interesting. That 2 number 1 picks of the '08 draft grew up like 30 miles apart.
Oh, it's crazy.
2 different states,
Yeah.
probably never played against each other or anything like that. Yeah, but I've been to Westchester many times. It's a beautiful town.
Yep.
All right, so we know you got to go. You got your big NFFC draft going on in a few minutes here. So we want to thank you for coming on. Great conversations, great info. But make sure you remind everybody where they can find you on Twitter and stuff like that.
Yeah, hopefully I didn't talk too much and
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. So, all right, well, thank you for coming on. Good luck in your draft tonight, and we'll hopefully have you on again soon.
All right, guys. Have a great season. We'll talk to you next time.
All right, see ya.
Later.
Thanks, John. Much appreciated.
You got it.
All right, AJ. So just a couple of the questions that we, due to time, we had to skip. I kind of want to revisit if you got a couple minutes.
I suppose.
Crack open another beer. You'll be all right.
Well, I'm still finishing the earlier beer that I had, but I had to have the freshie for the show.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Especially since I have the damn surfboard. I was like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah. So one of the ones that I wanted to ask him was about this, the vets, right? Melvin Gordon, Todd Gurley, stuff like that. Like, they're on new teams. They're trending down in the ADPs. They were already low to begin with. They were already like the mid-teens. Now they're in the low teens, if not outside of the teens. I mean, are we completely disrespecting these guys?
I feel like I personally am. I don't own Gordon or Gurley yet anywhere, and it's not that I don't. No, I feel like I it's not that I'm trying to disrespect them. I just feel like Gurley's been an injury issue. I do like the homecoming in Atlanta. I think he'll be utilized there well, but again, it's there's a lot of mouths to feed there, and it's a passing offense with my hometown boy Matty Ryan. So I don't love Gurley. I like
Gloating
Gordon.
on Matt Ryan as a Hokie fan, dude. You cannot like this guy. Come on.
Hey,
Team fan card
when were
removed.
we in college? Come on,
Jerk.
when were we in college? How long ago was that?
Doesn't matter.
The guy destroyed us. All right,
Still
he destroyed us because he's excellent.
He destroyed us in the last 3 minutes. It still hurts. Anyway,
exactly. He only needed 3 minutes of excellence to destroy us.
we beat him for 57 minutes, and then he scored. Anyway,
all right. So yeah, of the two, I feel like I like Gordon better, but I don't necessarily love his situation either. So I don't necessarily think it's as much of a screw the vets. We don't want to deal with them. I just think it's a situational thing too. Like Gurley's a little more injury issues for me, but Gordon is more of a situational issue.
yeah, I'm pretty much out on Gurley. I'm letting him fall. Like if he falls to me, like I don't even know. If he falls to me like running back 22-ish, I'll probably take him. Like I do have him ranked higher, but that's kind of like where John was saying, like, right? Like some of my rankings are based off of I think he's going to finish total year that point level, and so you sort of have to rank him there. But ideally, I don't want him there, and that's where consistency, like Bob Lung, comes into play, right? Yep. He's going to be banged up. He's going to have these games where they're just not going to run because their defense kind of stinks, and they're not going to be able to run. They're just going to pass. And if he doesn't fall into the end zone like he did 12 times last year, he's not going to be that good. So he's going to have these up and down games. So I'm off of Gurley. If I have to take one, it's Mel Gordon. I think Denver's, like I spoke to last week in the mock draft where I took him as my RB3. That's where I want him. I don't want to have to rely on him. He's going to be a flex guy. I think Denver signed him to that big contract because they want to use him. And Gordon, a little bit, got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Now, if that turns into anything, we'll see. And that's why he's ranked a little lower. But injury issues are always there with him too. But if I have to pick one, it's definitely Gordon over Gurley, even though I think my rankings say otherwise, which is weird.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a situational thing with Gordon for me. I do agree with the chip on the shoulder thing. It's like, hey, I'm just moving within the division, so I'm going to come see you again. Man. But it's like, all right, well, Rivers isn't there, so what are you proving to just the team in general? Like, you're not going to give a big middle finger to Phillip Rivers. He's not even in the division anymore, so whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's more the team, but. All right, so the next question we had here for the running backs then was, and John kind of touched on these guys a little bit, or a couple of them, Antonio Gibson, AP, Bryce Love. So they're all rising up the ranks because of the Geis being cut news.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who do you like the most as a Washington football team fan, former
fan? Talent-wise, it's probably Gibson or Love, just as like upside. They're younger. Maybe they can, have a spark and be big time. If you want to just get the consistent points from that backfield, you're going Adrian Peterson. He's going to be the main guy. It would take Gibson and Love to do a lot to overtake AP, I think, for the majority of the touches there. Ideally, I'm off this backfield, though. I don't really want anything to do with it. I think it can be 3 or 4-headed monster. I'm totally blanking on the fourth guy right now. Anyway, that obviously doesn't matter. But, yeah, I if you've got to take someone as like an RB 5-6 range, which is where I did one time in a draft just recently, I'm taking AP. Gibson's going way ahead of him, and I don't think that's right. I think people are just getting too excited about the rookies.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, the guy should be a future Hall of Famer, so I got to put my money on him. I've been a fan of his from a fantasy standpoint for a long time. Not necessarily a fan of his as a personal standpoint, but you know, he's gonna get you what you need, and it's not gonna be pretty, but it'll be points and it'll win you some matchups. So I agree that AP's got to be the guy ahead of these other two. I know Bryce Love's getting a lot of love, but I think we can do this. So.
I mean, I've got him stashed on taxi squads in 2 different dynasty leagues that I'm in, and you know, I'm hoping something happens with him. So I just don't know if it's going to be this year. Unfortunately, you know, he's got all the knee issues and you know whatnot. Yeah. So it's going to be tough for him to make a name for himself. But all right, man. Well, I think that's pretty much it. We had a couple other questions that, you know, we've kind of discussed in past shows, you know, about the San Francisco running back situation. You know, we had, you know, Lockett, Metcalf, and Kupp and Woods. You know, we've touched on those before. I think people can just go back to other shows and listen to those if they really want to. Nothing's really changed. As much, you know, John alluded to numerous times, not a lot has changed this offseason, minus injuries and, you know, maybe a couple camp news tweaks here and there, but it's hard to get a beat on these guys right now because you just don't know. I mean, John's got his, you know, ear to the ground more than any of us because of all the contacts he has and things like that. But he hasn't moved things, you know, almost as much as I haven't. So it's kind of saying something. So yeah, I think we can just cut it there, man. It's been a great show. I want to thank John again for coming on. It was an honor to have him here, and we'll cut it out there.
Absolutely. All right. Cheers, everybody.
See ya.
Happy Thursday.